Today we're making a French-style pork ragout with polenta. I'm going to use a pork shoulder that's going to come into the picture a little bit later. Diced tomatoes, herbes de Provence. We have celery, carrots, bell peppers. We have some garlic, a bay leaf. This is a fresh one and very fragrant. Use 2 if you have the dried ones. Then some smoked paprika powder. A spoonful of mustard, then some onion. This recipe uses a smoked pork belly. I'm using a jowl bacon. If you can't get that, no worries, use regular bacon. The thick cut variety would be good, or get a piece and cut it yourself. So let's just quickly chop up these things. And the garlic. These ingredients are cooked separately. And there it is. I'm just gonna do a couple of slices of the jowl bacon next. And you see I'm cutting this fairly thick because I want nice cubes. That's all the prep work. Let me get this out of the way. And now we're gonna work on the meat. There's a big bone in here. So this is the shoulder blade and it goes into the shoulder joint. There's a lot of meat on this side. But on the other side, it's going to be interrupted by the bone. This is good to cut out for a stew or a ragout as we are doing here. So I'm just trying to get as much of the large piece meat before I use all the little bits and pieces here. Oh, and by the way, don't throw the bone out. Well, if you have a dog, the dog would be happy, but you can also make an excellent ramen soup out of that. So here we have a large piece we could do something with. I'm just gonna cut the little bitty pieces out of here that usually don't produce something you can use as a steak or a roast. Okay, this is the bone with a little bit of meat left on. So this will make an excellent soup or an excellent stock. These roasts usually come with a good amount of fat on them, which would be great if you wanted to make sausage or leberkäse. But for our purpose, you want more of the meaty parts. So I'm taking the fat off. Of course, feel free to either render this or use this for sausage making. Nice bite-sized chunks. They don't have to be super regular. All right. This is as much meat as we're going to need. I'll get this out of the way and then we're going to start cooking. The first thing you want to do is bring a pot of water to a boil, and it shouldn't be a lot of water. Get in all your vegetables. That's the carrots, the bell peppers and the celery. What you want is the vegetables just covered, because we're going to reduce that water down and add the entire thing to the ragout. So you don't want too much water in here in the end. While we wait for this, we can actually start working on the meat part. So I'm going to push this to the side. Let's add a good pinch of salt to the vegetables. This is about as brown as this needs to be. So I'm going to pull this out on a plate. Try to leave the fat in there. Good. And now it's time for the bacon. So you only want this essentially rendered and hot, but you do not want this crispy. Now I'm going to add my onions and my garlic. At this stage it's time to add a spoonful of mustard. Add a little bit of the smoked paprika. There, this is nice and brown. Now it's time to add your tomatoes. See, now all the brown bits are coming off the bottom. That's a lot of flavor right there. Toss in your bay leaf. And add back all your meat. And of course, it wouldn't be a French dish if we didn't have any French spices. Here comes a good pinch of the herbes de Provence. Maybe let's make that 2. You don't want to skimp on that. This is a little bit dry right now, but keep in mind, there the vegetables will still go into this. So let me try this here. Yes, this would need salt right now, but I'm going to wait until I add this. So I added some water that it doesn't run dry and put a lid on, and now we're just going to let this simmer until the meat is cooked. Let's see how it's going. Yes, this is nice and soft. Let's pull that leaf out. At this point we just turn this off and we're going to add our vegetables. So here are the 2 options now. You can bring this back to a simmer it for, another 15 minutes or so and eat it right away. Or you can let this cool down and kind of steep overnight so that all the flavors mingle a little bit more, and then bring it up to heat tomorrow and eat it tomorrow. It's time to make our polenta for the ragout. I've prepared a broth. Out of a box is just fine. I'm adding some olive oil here. Not a lot, just a little. And I'm adding some polenta. I'm gonna let this roast just a few seconds because you don't want this to be too hot. You're just toasting it a little. Temperature down, way down. This is too hot. So I'm gonna go slow here. Otherwise this splatters all over the place. Now we're talking. It's a little bit like a risotto. You keep adding broth, stir, add more broth, stir, until the polenta is cooked, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You do this on the low, because polenta is the kind of stuff that starts burning real quick. There's all sorts of fancy polenta recipes out there, but by the end of the day, broth and polenta will do the trick just fine. The trick to a creamy polenta is cook it longer than you think it takes, because it takes longer than you think it takes. The closer the polenta is to being cooked, the more likely it's to stick. So particularly in the last few minutes, do a lot of stirring. You want a little bit of a runny consistency on polenta, because this stuff sets up when it cools down. What looks kind of like an oatmeal or porridge consistency now will actually be pretty solid in the end when it's cold. Let me do a quick sample. Caution, this stuff is going to be very hot. Oh yeah, this is done. I've already reheated the ragout, so it's time to plate. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and of course leave me a comment. I'll see you next time.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.